Thursday morning, and it is 9 a.m., and you are listening to 94.9 and 99.1 The River. And every week at this time, we bring you Our Town, and it's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. I'm the host of the program. I am Darren Swinson. A couple of guests on the program this morning. A little later on in the program, we'll be talking facilities in the Spring Grove Community School District. Rachel Udstuen, the superintendent of Spring Grove Schools, will talk about a survey they're asking community members to fill out regarding the future of facilities and many aspects of the community of Spring Grove. We'll discuss the issues about that with her. But our first guest this morning is Barb Fjestul. She is with Helping Services for Youth and Family. It is Child Abuse Prevention Month here in April, and Barb will talk about that issue specifically and all the other good things going on with Helping Services for Youth and Family. And that conversation will kick off the Our Town program, and that happens right now. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and here to talk about that issue is Barb Fjestul. She is with Helping Services for Youth and Families. And Barb, to begin the conversation, define child abuse to us, because I think it's one of those issues that we kind of think we know what it is, but the definition might be more broad than what we think it is. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. The definition of child abuse is extremely broad. Years ago, it used to be anytime you laid a hand on a child, for other than discipline, that was considered abuse. Abuse now entails emotional abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, and of course, physical violence, neglect, children not, having their primary needs met, such as safety, nutrition, and, a home environment are the very broad definition of abuse.
And of course, the best way to prevent it is to get out in front and make sure situations don't reach those points. What are some things that people can do, that everyone can do, to make sure that those things don't come to the forefront?
There's a whole variety of things, but some of the most important things are encouraging children to speak up. And, that can be really difficult when children don't have a voice or are mistrustful. Promoting child abuse prevention in your communities, being a part or contributing to agencies that focus on child abuse prevention. In the 4-county area, Howard, Almaquee, Winneshiek, and Clayton counties, we have a variety of, great programs here at Helping Services. They also have them at Northeast Iowa Community Action, your preschools, things like that. There's a lot of great agencies that are out there, working very hard to prevent child abuse. Volunteering at these agencies, volunteering at your schools, volunteering at child care centers, volunteering with your parks and rec communities. And then, of course, investing financially, it's not just your volunteerism, but volunteering financially or investing financially is huge. In 2023, they estimate the cost of a child through their lifetime that has been abused is well over $1 million to the victim and the society. The best way to prevent that is, starting early on with early prevention. We're a very reactive society, and that's a huge problem because problems develop very early on. And, taking an active role in these and being a proactive society, we can turn things around. It's a long, slow process, but we can do it.
And with any form of abuse, getting the message out that there is help out there is one of the very important parts of getting things back in the right direction. How do you send that message to young children when sometimes it's even difficult to send that message to adults?
Right. The first thing really is making sure that, parents have support, caregivers have support. Child abuse doesn't just, happen one time. It's something that easily builds, or people will snap, so they say. And having that support and helping, people raise kids. My children are now adults, and I have my first grandchild. And like I told, my son and daughter-in-law, children do not come with little tags attached to their ankles with an instruction booklet. It would be a lot easier if they did. And so relying on those people that they trust, or other, professional community members, is a huge way to, start at the beginning.
And at Helping Services, you offer a family education program. Explain what that all entails.
Right. So the family education program within the 4-county area has been around for about 25 years. I have been a part of the program for 20 years. And here at Helping Services, it's family education and support. It is a free in-home service to anybody. We serve families, professionals that just want to be sure their kiddos are, meeting all of their milestones and are at the top of their game and are ready for preschool. And we also serve families that have, kind of no idea. They need various resources. They need to be connected with WIC, or they need to be, connected with, other resources. We provide breastfeeding support, car seat safety, developmental assessments, hearing, vision, health screenings, weight checks, in-home infant weight checks. We work very closely with a lot of the medical professionals in the area, and a lot of the obstetrics units. Like I said earlier, referring people to various resources. And then the other kind of fun thing that we do is, we provide various group opportunities, play groups for children, families with young children, and they always teach some type of developmental aspect. And a lot of people, will stop and say, "Oh, I didn't even realize that was an important part of my child developing." We serve the 4-county area, Howard, Elm, Key, Winneshiek, and Clayton, with families prenatally up to age 3. And we use the Parents as Teachers curriculum, which is actually has chapters throughout the world. It is an evidence-based program, and tells you all the different things you can do to help make your child school ready from birth up to 5 years old.
Are there any specific events Helping Services is putting on this month, being Child Abuse Prevention Month?
Yes, we have 3 really fun events coming up. In Elkader on this Saturday, actually April 15th, there is a free movie, excuse me, and that starts at 12:30. The seats are limited. And then in Cresco at the fitness center, there is a family fun day. There's going to be some bouncy houses, and then we have some other resources that are going to be there providing games and activities. That's also this Saturday from 1 to 4. And then in Wakan, April 29th, at their fitness center, we're also having a family fun day with bouncy house and, various activities for families and kids. And that's from 9 to 12. And all of that can be found on our website or our Facebook page.
When it comes to others helping out, many of us in society are kind of a mind your own business society, and we don't want to get involved deep into other people's lives and stuff like that. But when it comes to this issue, how do you get people past that barrier to make sure that children are protected as well as possible?
It's really tough. And especially for the Midwest, most people kind of have the mindset of it's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it will become your business when that child hits school. It will become your business when they are a teenager and doing dangerous things through, with lack of supervision or whatnot. It will become your business when that person gets involved in the criminal justice system. And that's something we all pay for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of my money going to that. I want it to go to the beginning. So we don't have to build new prisons. If you see something, say something. Don't be afraid to offer a struggling parent a smile, or we've all been in Walmart and there's screaming kids and poor mom looks like she's ready to lose it. Just a pat on the back saying, I remember those days. Hang in there, mom, it'll be okay. Little things like that can make all the difference. The big things, if you suspect something, if you see something, you need to say something. Whether it's at a workplace or you see something on a playground, or there is the Department of Human Services number to call, and they do have investigators. There's a lot of families that fall through the cracks because we are afraid to say something. And there's a lot of abuse that can easily be avoided just by saying, hey, is there something I can do to help you out?
On this specific subject, anything we're missing, anything else you want to pass along, as long as you got the forum this morning?
The greatest thing about doing what I do is I'm actually seeing families that I served 20 years ago, and they're young moms, and they're like, I remember you, and they want us to come out. Or I'll see a mom that I served a long time ago, and she'll say, I never would have got through breastfeeding my kids without your support. Or the different things of you really helped me to understand this behavior is normal. Just simple things like that are something that we can all do. And not being afraid to say, hey, have you ever thought about a family educator? We're not related to DHS. We are mandatory reporters. And we let everybody know that when we go in, we are there to support the mom and the dad and the child, or the caregivers, whoever's, taking care of these children, our future. We can't do it without support, not in this day and age.
And if people are interested in learning more about the resources that you provide related to this or any other subject, what's the best way to contact Helping Services?
Well, we have our email, which is info@helpingservices.org. Or we have a Helping Services Facebook page, and they can contact us through that also.
Barb, we appreciate the time discussing this very important subject this morning, and we appreciate you and everybody else and what you guys do to better our community at Helping Services. Thanks for the time, as always.
Thanks so much, Darren, and thanks for, letting us talk a little bit about this. It's not talked about enough.
Barb Fjestul with Helping Services for Youth and Families. Having a chat right now with Rachel Udstuen. She is the superintendent of schools in the Spring Grove School District, and Spring Grove is taking a look at what they have from a facility perspective and what they will need in the future from a facility perspective. And you're asking for the public's help and giving their 2 cents on this issue. Rachel, just explain where we are right now in the process and how do we get here and what the future steps will be.
Sure. So right now we're listening to our community. We're listening to the voices in the community and listening to what they might want to see happen. We have an organization in our community called Spring Grove 2030. It's a group of people who have been working with some different organizations and looking at what would people like to see Spring Grove look like by the year 2030. That's how it got its name. And so the Citizens Institute for Rural Design came and did some work with us last summer, and we had a lot of community members who they would come to the farmers market and give input on things they wanted to see in our community. There were a number of listening sessions, and they gathered a lot of data in a week that they were there, just listening about what they wanted to see. And then they started to put some of that on paper. And last fall, then our school board looked at that, and some of the projects were very clearly community projects. Maybe it's a city project, if it's something related to the Parks and Recreation Department. But some of the work clearly had a student focus. And one of the places that emerged quickly was the community would like to see a space where performances can be done. We have Yield Opera House in our community, and they have a theater. They do a summer production out in the barn, but they also have a theater on Main Street. And it's not big enough for the school to put on a lot of events there. And so we began to realize that's something we're missing. In Spring Grove, we have a gymatorium. It's, we play games in there, sporting events happen. Then we push the bleachers in, and suddenly the stage that houses the bleachers becomes the stage for productions. And people sit on folding chairs on the gym floor. And it's worked for us. But as programs have expanded and become very popular, both in the sports and the arts world, that space is it's used all the time. It's really hard for the theater group to get time in the gym to practice their performance on the stage because there are games in there quite frequently. And so it's just become such a juggling act. So it's been a conversation we've had in our school and on our school board for a while. And so when we saw that, we realized this might be a project that, if the community wants to see it happen, feels like it might be a school project, because our students would probably be in this space a lot. But then we had to look at our building, and we did a facilities analysis last fall and looked at what things need to be improved and fixed within our building. We have always been so fortunate. We've had maintenance teams that have always done a phenomenal job of keeping our building in the best possible shape. But over time, windows are going to need to be replaced. Roofs have to be replaced. We've always been very fiscally conservative. We've done projects as needed and kept up with a lot of them. But we've also done a building project every 30 years or so. I was going back, and this community built the first schoolhouse in 1899. Wasn't big enough. 1924, they built the new one, which is the shell of the main part of our building, the oldest part of our building. Burned down in 1924, built it right back up again. So 3 big projects between 1899 to 1924. Then we did in the 50s, we added on our game gym. And then in 88, we added our media center and a practice gym. And so here we are 35 years later, and we've done this facilities analysis and looked at what needs to be done. We've heard these comments in the community about what people would like to see. And so the board said, all right, we're going to listen, and we're going to listen to the voices in our community and see, is this the time for another project 35 years later? So we put together a task force, had a lot of different diverse voices coming in, giving input about what they'd like to see happen. We've been working with ISG out of there. We're working with the lacrosse office, and they've been coming and helping us steer this. And then they put together a pretty comprehensive survey that's gone out to our community, and we're getting input on right now. and just looking at what projects need to be done and what projects people want to see being done. What would they be willing to support? So, we could find out that it is not the time, but we could also find out it's the time to do something and to hear what people really want to see done.
How important is it to get a vast group of people giving their input on this? Because if you want something done and if you want something to come to fruition, it's got to have broad-based community support. How important is it to hear from everybody or as many people as possible before moving forward or potentially not moving forward with something?
We want to hear from everybody. That's absolutely, if we're going to ask a question of our community, we want it to be the right question. We want it to be for a project our community wants to see done. And we want to ask it for a dollar amount that our community feels like they can afford. And if they don't want any projects done and they don't feel like they can afford any projects, we certainly don't want to be asking that question. We know it's a tough time to ask a question. It's always a tough time to ask a question because we're going to ask people to pay something. And so we know that that's hard. On the other hand, we also know that public education is for the greater good of our community, and we need to make investments at times. So that's our question is, what does our community think we need to invest in, and how much are they willing, what kind of an increase can they support?
When it comes to the cost question, how is that being presented in this survey?
So what we do is in the survey, there's a graph, and you can look up what's your estimated market value on your house, and then it will say, okay, if we did a $12 million project, it would be this. If we do a $24 million project, it would be this. And so, like as an example, on a $150,000 home in our community, a $12 million project would be an increase of $384 in taxes per year. And so that is, but if we were looking at a $28 million project, now we're talking about $692. That's a lot of money for families. And we know that. Some families have asked me, why don't we just build a new school? Well, two reasons. One is we don't need to build a new school. The bones of our school are very, very good. We need to look at improving the building we're in. But two is we can't afford to build a new school. At a minimum, a new school would cost $85 million, and that's more than our tax base can handle. If we're saying a $28 million project is going to be $692, you got to increase that by a lot to build a new building. So people, when they're looking at the survey, they can look at what do I want? What am I dreaming about? And what would I love to see happen? But then it's also, okay, these are the actual dollars that I can commit to. And one of the questions is, I could support something smaller than 12 million, or I just can't support something right now.
How much bonding capacity does the district have right now?
Well, we could go up to 65 million is about what we could do. So that would be a huge stretch, and also isn't needed. And that's maybe where I go back to how Spring Grove has always operated. We've been very fiscally conservative, and we've done things when we needed to do them, and we've asked questions when projects needed to be done. This summer, we're going to be remodeling our science lab, our physical science lab. We're really excited about it. It has not been remodeled in probably 50 years. And we just each year set aside a little bit of money so that we can afford to do that project all at once. And so that will be paid for this summer. But we also know, on the flip side, if we're going to ask the community a referendum question that's going to be connected to a facility bond, we know we get one ask. We know we're not going to ask you for $3 million this year, and then a couple of years later come back and ask you for a couple more million. And now we need a big project for 10. We know we get one ask for 30 years. So we got to do it right, and we got to do it when the community's ready.
Under state law, are there other options to finance or fund a building improvement project other than bonding, or is that pretty much what you're narrowed into as your only option?
That's pretty much your only option, unless you're setting money aside. We have long-term facilities maintenance revenue, but that's maintaining your building, like for like, not necessarily for something new. So we have, and sometimes people will say, aren't I already paying some kind of a referendum? And the answer is yes, because in Minnesota, there are two pots in a referendum funding. One is operating levy, and the other then is a facilities bond. And so people will often say operating levy is for learning, and bond is for building. And so we have an operating levy in our community. They've been people have been very, very supportive of that. Operating levy goes towards your day-to-day operations, towards staffing and books, curriculum, things like that. All the money that you get in a year in your operating levy needs to be spent in that year. You don't get to carry that over from year to year. So we have that currently. Sorry.
And sorry for interrupting you, and you touched on the relationship between the community and the school district and the importance of that relationship, perhaps using a fine arts facility for plays to be put on from outside groups outside of the school district. Is that a way you can sell a building project, knowing the fact that the school building, yes, your primary function is pre-K through 12, but at the same time, there are other community outlets that can use that building for the community good?
Yes, absolutely. Last summer, when the community was looking at that space, it was really important that it wasn't just a theater that could only be used for performances. They wanted it. People wanted to see a multi-purpose theater where maybe the staged the seats are kind of in that bleachers model again, where like they're comfortable seats to go see a show in, but they pull out or they push in, and then you could put up a bunch of tables and you could have a reception there. Lots of different ideas about how people would like to see that space utilized. One of the things that Spring Grove 2030, this community group still meets, and they have said too that maybe in all of this, there's still some part of the project that they would take on. So if our community says, yes, we want to do something, but we can only afford this much, they might look at, well, then what could we do to help fill in also so that we could have this space for our community? Some of the things that we're asking about are like updating our building systems and, ventilation and HVAC kinds of things, and like looking at the windows and roofs. Well, some of those things aren't necessarily flashy, but they're really important. And our community may say, we need to invest our money there, not in a performing arts space. So Spring Grove 2030 might step in then to see if they can help somehow to make that dream also become a reality.
And I'd imagine the stuff you just touched on, if you don't keep that stuff up, and if you let that stuff go, that's the stuff that gets noticed before anything else, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that is. And so, and you don't want to do something that seems a little bit, that might feel extravagant and neglect the things that really need to be done, because you're still going to have to do those projects, whether you want to or not.
How can folks give their 2 cents?
So we put out, we have a survey that's been out, and we sent out a postcard mailer to all of our box holders in the Spring Grove School District you can do it one of two ways. You either can go online and do the survey, or you can get a printed copy. People have stopped by and picked up a printed copy and returned it to us here. It's out on Facebook. We have it on our Facebook page. We have it on our school webpage. And so, yeah, you can do it. The survey it says it closes on Wednesday, but we're going to keep it open until Saturday, because we feel like people just need a little bit more time to give that input. And then ISG is going to be bringing all that data to our task force, which meets next Monday on the 17th, and to the school board on the 17th as well for our meeting, just to start looking at what are the voices in our community saying.
And you kind of answered it, but the data gets gathered. You get it to Spring Grove 2030 as well as your school board. What happens then?
Then we have what we call go, no go time. We either say, okay, we can go. There's support for this. Or if it's no go, if there's not support, then we take a big step back, and we have conversations. We bring people into the building, we show them, we answer questions, and we help. I think we need to then establish a understanding of what the needs are and what we might want to do down the road.
All right, Rachel, anything we're missing, anything else you want to pass on regarding what's going on right now?
One thing I do want to hit on, because I think it's sometimes I have a lot of people who say that they didn't know about it. There's a tax credit. It's called the Ag to School tax credit. And the belief always was, if a school is going to build a building, it's the farmers who build the building, because they have the ag land, and the ag land is really what's building that. And that was very true for a very long time. And in 2000, I think it was 17, 18, somewhere in there, legislature finally address this inequity, and there's now an Ag to School credit. And so what it does is it reduces the burden for agricultural property owners, and it is currently at a 60% automatic tax credit on your ag land, and it is scheduled to get up to 70% in 2023. So in one of our task force meetings, when we were looking through that, someone said, well, we don't have any bond going on right now. And we don't have a facility bond going on. So is that money we're leaving on the table? And it actually is. It's not a funding mechanism we've utilized. So that's one thing I would just invite people who have ag land and who have questions about that, just to reach out so I can explain how that works, because there's a huge tax credit the state of Minnesota is paying for that part for our building bonds.
All right, Rachel, we appreciate the time telling us what's going on as the conversations continue for the betterment, not only of the school district but of the community as a whole. We appreciate you taking the time and telling us what's going on, and I'm sure this won't be our last conversation on this matter.
Thank you very much, Darren. I appreciate the opportunity.
Rachel Udstuen, the Superintendent of Schools in the Spring Grove School District. A thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Barb Fjestul with Helping Services for Youth and Families, discussing the important issue of child abuse, as April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And we also want to thank Rachel Udstuen joining us, the Spring Grove School Superintendent. Spring Grove residents still have time to fill out that survey until Saturday. It's available on the Spring Grove Schools Facebook page. Also, it is available if you want to just stop by the district office. You can get a handwritten copy of that survey as well. So they want to hear from you to decide what the public wants before moving forward there. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you can't always be near a streaming device, near an Alexa, or near a radio at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we have the privilege of getting to talk to interesting people, and we want to bring you those interviews on your schedule. So we put these up on our YouTube channel. We put a link to it up at all of our LA Communications Facebook pages. And we also, if you're just out doing your thing on YouTube, just go to 413 at Our Town program. That's a great way to get the program. Another way we try to serve our community as well as we can at LA Communications. Thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. A thank you to Barb and to Rachel for joining us, our guest this morning. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.